Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my podcast. This is Dominique Beaumonte. This is Seasoned with Salt, and this is episode 9. So, this episode, I'm going to focus on college. I need to preface this by saying that I am a big fan of Amanda Seales' podcast entitled Small Doses. And most recently, Amanda Seales did a podcast entitled The Side Effects of College. During the episode, The Side Effects of College, she talks about her journey to undergraduate and graduate school. And I found it to be extremely inspiring. And I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to share my journey because I think that it might be inspirational or at least interesting to other people. So here it goes. Going to college is, in fact, indeed, one of the greatest accomplishments of my life. And I don't say that because I'm different or better than anybody else, because I know that there are a lot of people who have gone to college. And I want to preface this discussion by saying that I have a bachelor's degree from the University of Oregon in Ethnic Studies and Journalism, and I have a master's degree in Educational Leadership from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and I'm currently a second-year seminary student at the Fuller Theological Seminary. I wanted to preface it by that because I don't want people to be like, oh yeah, I gotta wait till the end and find out like how it all ended. It's still going. I have, to give you a little bit of context, I grew up in foster care primarily. My mother is mentally disabled, and I'm her firstborn, oldest child. And essentially the first 8 to 9 years of my life, I lived with her, a variety of foster parents, as well as my maternal grandmother, who did not raise my mother either, but became a part of her life as an adult. My mother also was a foster child. My mother did not complete high school, and she did not go to college. And so a part of my testimony is that I'm a first-generation college graduate. I'm really elated to say that both my two brothers both have bachelor's and associate's degrees. Well, my brother is a barber college, and my other brother went to Eastern Washington University. But my story starts off a little bit rocky. So probably when my mother started having kids again, when I was about 8 or 9, between 6 and 8, she decided that because she was having so many kids that she could not care for, she wanted us all to be together. And essentially we all were in the same foster home, which became a loving home for which we are appreciative, and we have a great family that loves us. And so we don't really consider ourselves to be foster kids. We just consider ourselves to be a part of their family, and we're grateful to God that they have embraced us as such. I was not the best student. I had a lot of challenges academically. I do consider myself to be smart, but I'm not certain that I sort of was built to be an educational scholar. My grades, for the most part, were subpar. While in middle school, I took a break from traditional middle school to attend alternative school, and was actually pulled out of alternative school, for which I went probably about the middle of the 7th grade, and was pulled out of alternative school around the first day of high school, because I was essentially not learning anything in alternative school and probably not meant to be there. But I can talk about that on a different day. But I was fortunate enough to have a successful high school experience, which led to applying to a number of colleges, primarily as historically Black colleges and universities. However, being a foster kid, once you turn 18, the resources provided to your foster parent are no longer available. And so because of that, I was forced to move. Not after I turned 18, because I turned 18 in October, and because I hadn't graduated from high school yet, I was allowed to stay in the home where I was. 10 days after I graduated, I had to move, and I lived essentially with my birth mother in her very small, like 400 square foot apartment in Seattle, Washington. I had intended to go to an HBCU, but had not heard back about financial aid, and had heard a lot of horror stories about what it would be like to get across the country and not have adequate financial aid, not know anything about where I was going to be living, and so on. And because I had been a ward of the state, and because I was, to a certain extent, homeless, and did not have a job, it was just not possible for me to even get across the country to attend a 4-year historically Black college or university. So it was my counselor who had recommended that while she found that I was a very promising student, that it would be ideal for me to apply to some state schools in Oregon and in Washington, just in case the HBCU option did not pan out. And so I applied to the University of Washington and the University of Oregon. And it just so happened that the first formal acceptance letter that I got was actually the first formal acceptance letter that I got was from the Talladega College, I think is in Alabama. I think my list was Grambling and an institution in Virginia, HBCU, that I never can remember. That's not Hampton. But I was like really stuck to go there, but I hadn't heard anything all summer, and I was just sort of living, like on almost nothing. One day, I learned not only that I got into the University of Oregon, but they had an orientation that was required for all students. And so since there was nothing else that I could really rely on, I had $39, and a train ticket to the University of Oregon cost $39. So I got on this train and rode from Seattle, Washington to Eugene, Oregon, and went to this orientation for which I could not afford and was unsure how I was going to pay for, aside from the train ticket. I went there. I spent the night. I registered for classes, and essentially the rest is history. The summer, and it's interesting because I recently went back to University of Oregon after 15 years after graduating in 2003, and it was interesting because I had like a blue tub, which had in all of my belongings, my clothes, anything that I owned was in this blue tub that I kept with me all summer. And when it was time for me to go to college, again, my mom found enough money for me to get on the train and go back to Eugene. And I walked from the train station to the place which would be my dorm room. And the thing, the most memorable experience for me was getting to the place that would be my dorm room. And the university president had been helping students carry their belongings. And I had this one blue tub, and I walked up to the dorms, and the university president grabs my blue crate and helps us to my room, which was kind of interesting. And I didn't go with a parent. Nobody was with me. Nobody took me there. I didn't have a cell phone. I just had this blue crate and myself. And I remember seeing all of these people and their kids, parents and kids and smaller siblings, helping their siblings get situated. And I had this blue tub, and I felt like, oh my gosh, this is really overwhelming. I'm not going to survive here. There is just no way that I'm going to survive here. I don't know anybody. I didn't have a blanket. I didn't have any sheets. I didn't have the Target run. I didn't have any gift cards to go and get anything. I didn't have anything. And I sat on the bed. I think that eventually financial aid came in, and I took the leftover from my financial aid check and went to Target and bought a blanket and a couple of crates. And my experience, thankfully, the University of Oregon community, especially the Black faculty and staff that were there, really embraced me. I ended up, even though I had to pay for my first year, but I ended up getting a full ride scholarship for the duration of my time at the university. And it was just a true blessing to me. And after my 4-year experience there and really growing and developing as a leader, being able to be president of the BSU and a number of things, joining a fraternity, all that great stuff. After my 4 years there, I had a lot of confidence in my ability, but graduating felt the same way that it did to get there, because while other people were graduating and they were moving home and they had places to go, that wasn't my experience. I stayed in Eugene every summer. I didn't go home for the summer. Most of the holidays I did not go home for while I was in college, with the exception of going to Seattle for all of the Christmases. And when I graduated, I just didn't know what to do. I graduated in 4 years. Most of my friends that I grew to love graduated in 5 years, and so I was sort of graduating before them because I changed my major. And I didn't know what was going to happen. And the only thing that I knew that I could do well was be a student. That's the most confidence that I had in myself was I know how to be a student, so I'm going to apply for grad school. So I applied for 5 or 6 grad schools. My top choice was Seattle University, and I kind of put all my eggs in that basket. I'm going to move back to Seattle. I'm going to live in the dorms. I'm going to get a graduate assistantship, and I'm going to reunite with my family and friends. I'm going to enjoy my experience there. I was notified that year that I was invited to a campus interview. I went to the campus interview at Seattle University. I had a full experience there where I interviewed with people, all that. I was just really excited. And then I got a letter from the Seattle University after my interview saying that I had not been accepted. And so, as you can imagine, I was just lost. No plan for the future, unsure of what to do. I had no job, I had no income, I had nowhere that I could go back to. And so I essentially had to figure out, what am I going to do? I worked, because I was a student senator, The woman who works, I think she's my Facebook, her name is Jennifer Creighton. Thank you, Jennifer. Jennifer Creighton let me work in the Associated Students of the University of Oregon office all through the summer as a student assistant until I found a job. I found a job as an admissions counselor at Southern Oregon University. I interviewed, I took the train down there, interviewed, got the job. And when I got the job, they said, all right, your first day is this day. However, we need a copy of your driver's license. Well, when I graduated from the University of Oregon in 2003, I had never driven a car ever, like never. I didn't have a driver's license, nothing. So essentially, this short period of time between having to relocate from Eugene to this small Oregon town called Ashland, I had to figure out how to drive, take a test, and get there. So I got a job as an admissions counselor, learned how to drive in one weekend, literally. And for 1 year, I drove across the Washington and Oregon border, recruiting students to come to the Southern Oregon University. Well, after a year, I decided that even though I did not get accepted to any graduate schools after undergraduate school, I was going to try again, and I was just going to look at schools that I wanted to go to. I had some work experience, and I was poised to make it happen. So I applied to Georgia State, University of Nevada, Las Vegas. I didn't apply to Seattle U because I was very upset with them for making me think that they were going to accept me, and they didn't. And essentially, I ended up going to UNLV. Prior to going to UNLV, I had never been to Las Vegas. I essentially had never been outside of, I had been outside of my, because I had gone to the National Association of Black Journalists Conference and the Alpha Convention. But I had never been to Las Vegas before. I had never toured the campus, nothing. So the day that I moved to Nevada, I got off the plane. I had found a possible roommate on Craigslist. I picked this particular roommate because in the ad on Craigslist, it said that the person lived 1 mile from the airport, and I figured that I could walk 1 mile from the airport with the things that I had with me. And certainly I walked, I met the guy, shook his hand, and he became my roommate. And fortunately, I met some wonderful friends and had one of the greatest experiences of my life, just in graduate school at UNLV. In addition to that, while I was at UNLV in Las Vegas, quote unquote, Sin City, I rededicated my life to Christ and joined a church, which was not something that I intended to do. But having been in Eugene for 4 years, where there was a Church of God in Christ, but it wasn't where I wanted to go. And Ashland definitely had no Black church at all, as far as I can remember. So the opportunity to go to a church was really exciting for me. Nevertheless, I wanted to share the experiences that I had with going to college, because I think in hindsight, the experiences that I had really prepared me for what it would be like to work on a college campus and to talk to parents and students about the experience that they would have at a 4-year institution. And it prepared me to look in the eyes of parents who were nervous about the future of their child because of what them leaving the nest would be like. It prepared me to talk with students who were first-generation graduate students who were unsure of whether they could make it. It prepared me to be able to coach and mentor young Black male students on college campuses when essentially everything that they knew about college seemed to be sort of a negative kind of hit towards them educationally, confident-wise, etc. And so having beat the odds, like the experience of being able to build a career in higher education has been one of the great experiences of my life, and it's one of the reasons why, like, I'm really committed to higher education and to young adults, both educationally and ministry-wise, because I know what it was like for me, what the transition was like for me. And fortunately, like, when there wasn't a support system, like, God put a support system in my life. And for me, like, wanting to, better understand the educational system, particularly higher education, was a blessing to me, or was my obligation, because of all of the wonderful people from that day that I arrived in Eugene, Oregon with my little blue thing and walked a mile and a half to my dorm, to the day that I graduated from UNLV. And I think that all of us have a story to tell that is sort of the foundation of our ministry and our passion. This is my passion for education because statistically, as a foster kid, as a Black male, seeing some of the things that I have seen, having some of the experiences that I have had, I wasn't supposed to be a two-time college graduate. I wasn't supposed to have the success that I had, and it's interesting because I went to a church service, and one of the persons that were praying, they said something that really stuck with me about this generation and how we need to encourage this generation not to have a false sense of humility. And what I took from that, just contextually, is that sometimes we are told that we cannot talk about some of the things that we have accomplished because it might intimidate or make people feel bad, or that we are arrogant. But my educational experience and the things that the Lord has allowed me to attain through my educational experience is all credited to God. And when I don't talk about it, when I don't express it, when I don't when I don't share it with other people, it's really me discrediting God for who He has made me to be and the experiences that He has allowed me to have. And I do not take for granted, like, education and the experience, and I do not disconnect educational endeavors from my Christian walk or the Christian walk of others. I believe they go hand in hand. I believe that God gave us systems of education and teachers and educators, and my life is centered around education because of not just what education does for other people, but education essentially saved me from this trajectory that I would be unsuccessful, or that I would not, believe in myself, or it's really difficult to explain, but it's not really that complex. Like, God uses certain things that we experience in life to catapult us to new levels of success. And education was not just the thing that I needed to get a job. Education has been the thing that has helped me to gain confidence in who God is, and it has allowed me to know that God loves me and that He is real. And so I just thank God for what He has allowed me to experience when I was going through, when I was walking all these miles, when I was homeless, when I was taking the train from Eugene to Seattle, when throughout these experiences, like, I gained so much confidence in God because I didn't know where the next financial aid check was going to go or what was going to happen when they said that all the students had to get out of the dorms. Like, I didn't know. I didn't have a car. I didn't have a friend to drive home with. But God, like, sustained me. He kept me, and He made life worth living. And I just thank God for having that testimony and for Him entrusting me with this testimony to tell other people. And so the source of my passion for education and tenacity is Christ Jesus.